along, you see I put an and here that says traveling for a non-optional or non-discretionary purpose. So basically, you will also have to meet that condition even though you are exempted. And I'll explain a little bit about what is non-optional and non-discretionary in my next presentation slide. Please do note that if you do have COVID-19 symptom, you will also not be permitted to enter Canada, even though you meet the exemption. Okay, so what is non-optional and non-discretionary purpose, as I mentioned earlier? Basically, that means your travel is for essential purpose. So I'll provide two quick examples today that are relevant to you. And please do understand that this decision for non-optional or non-discretionary is made by the Canada Border Service Agency. They are the enforcement officer you will see when you arrive in Canada at the airport. Like I said, basically, non-optional or non-discretionary means essential. So you're traveling to Canada as international students, attending the schools you say you are going on the study permit application. That means you are essential. But there's another things to be careful of. So please listen to this carefully. To qualify as an essential purpose, going to Canada as international students, you should only travel to Canada no longer than 4 weeks before your school starts. So if your school, let's say, starts its first class on September 7th, as an example, you should not be traveling before August 10th. The 4-week window will give you sufficient time to be quarantined and getting ready for school. Any length longer than that is now considered as non-essential, and you will likely be refused boarding on the airplane to travel to Canada. Another exemption, an example here I providing to you is immediate family members of the international students. For example, parents, spouses, children, or adopted children. For them to qualify as essential purpose, like I said earlier, a 1-week vacation to visit the students is not going to be sufficient. You must satisfy the border officer that the trip is going to settle down with the students, taking more time than usual just than a vacation to see how the environment is like. You also need a written authorization letter from IRCC, which I'll explain a little bit more when I talk about study permit processing. So now you can use your camera or your phone to scan this QR code and bookmark it. This basically leads you to the Canada Border Service Agency webpage. They have a lot of information in there that explain more about what is essential purpose and if you can travel to Canada at this point. So I mentioned earlier, international students are exempted from travel restriction to Canada, but there are conditions. The order in council specifically explained that the condition is that the schools you are going to attend in Canada are on the list of approved institutions that has appropriate measures and readiness plan in place against COVID. The approved list is frequently updated and can be found from our website. You can use your smartphone now again to scan this QR code, which will directly lead you to the website that has the complete approval list of institutions. And you should frequently check them because they do get updated before you travel to Canada. If your school is not on the list, you will likely be refused entry into Canada. Your travel will become non-essential. So let's say now you have obtained a approved study permit. You have made sure that the school you are attending is on the list of approved institution. You will now need to prepare for a plan to isolate or quarantine yourself for 14 days upon arrival. The border officer at the Canadian airports will be asking for this quarantine plan. You probably hear recently that we have announcement that there is exemption of quarantine arriving in Canada. I'll provide a little more detail later in the slides, but I just wish to bring to your attention at this point now that even though you meet the exemption to be quarantined, you will still need the 14-day quarantine plan. This basically is to ensure that if you are tested positive upon your arrival in Canada, you do have a plan to be quarantined or isolate for 14 days. Okay, so before I dive deeper into the quarantine exemption that was recently announced, I just wish to bring your attention back to what's currently still in effect since February 22nd, 2021, when you arrived to Canada by air. So since February 22nd, all travelers will be required to take a COVID-19 test when they arrive in Canada before exiting the airport, and another one toward the end of their 14-day quarantine period. You'll also be required to reserve, prior to departure to Canada, a 3-night stay in a government-authorized hotel. And you'll also be required to stay at this hotel for up to 3 nights at your own cost while waiting for the result of your arrival test. And I would highly recommend you now to download the Arrive Can to app on your smartphone. The app will allow you to enter all of your information, including your hotel reservation, as well as your quarantine plan. And it will be very efficient when you arrive at the border to show that to the border officer. All right, so as mentioned, there's new order in council which explain about the exemption from quarantine and hotel stopover that I just explained to you. So you can take out your phone again, scan this QR code, which leads you exactly to where the quarantine exemption is explained. But I'll quickly go through with you here. Starting from July 5th this year, if you're eligible to enter Canada, for example, as an international student going to an approved institution, and you meet the non-discretionary purpose, and you have received full series of an accepted vaccine or a combination of the accepted vaccine at least 14 days prior to your departure. These vaccines include Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Janssen, or so-called the Johnson & Johnson. And you also need to obtain a negative COVID test within 72 hours before your departure. You will still need to have a 14-day quarantine plan ready, which I just mentioned, even though you meet the vaccination exemption. And again, upon your arrival at the Canadian airport, you will be tested again. And when you are negative, you are exempted from quarantine. So any minor children going to study under the age of 18 without being fully vaccinated are still required to quarantine, even though they are traveling with fully vaccinated adults. But minors under the age of 18 will be exempted from the 3-day hotel stopover. Okay, so now let's move on to current processing of study permits. I'll give you a quick update on our current processing. You are likely aware already that all applications now must be submitted online and no paper application will be accepted. This continues to be the case, and we have no information on when or if paper application will resume. The application requirement remain unchanged itself. You will need to submit all relevant documents such as the letter of acceptance from the school you are going to attend in Canada, funds document, and other supporting document, as well as necessary forms that are listed on our website. What we have recently announced was that if you have submitted a complete study permit application by May 15 this year for your study program in Canada beginning this fall, you should receive a final decision no later than August 6. But please do note that I say complete application, meaning all required documents, including forms, supporting documents, medical exam, police certificates, just to name a few, are all submitted at once. If the application is missing some documents, it could delay the process, and you will likely receive a decision later than August 6. You should also take note that if your program in Canada continues to offer online courses only, the study permit will not be issued, and you could still continue study online. If the program indicates that online courses are just temporary or hybrid with physical attendance, study permit will be issued if you meet all other requirements, and you will need that permit to travel to Canada. Okay, I want to take this opportunity as well to bring your attention to medical examination and its validity. When you apply for study permits, some of you did upfront medical exam. Some of you were requested to do it during the process. You should be aware that you can only enter Canada if your medical exam result is still valid. A medical exam result is valid for 1 year, and you should remember when you had done your exam. So you can already gauge if your medical is expiring or already expired. But to be absolutely sure, you can log on to your IRCC secure account before traveling to see if your visa or counterfoil document is still valid. You should also continue to check until your travel date to make sure it's valid. If the medical has expired, the counterfoil status will say that your document is not valid, then you will need to redo a medical exam. On the screen, the example here on the bottom that shows you the counterfoil document is valid. That means your medical exam result is still valid, then you can travel. I know there will be situations where the dates are cutting really close and you feel like your travel date is very close to the 1 year expiry. If in doubt, you could proceed with another medical examination, just to be sure. Another note that I wish to bring to your attention is that we have recently heard from airlines that they begin to ask for proof of medical examination upon checking. So I would recommend you to prepare a copy of your medical exam results that you have completed, just in case. Okay, another important thing I wish to note is if you had any changes to your study plan in Canada. So first, if your study permit is still in process at this point and you have changed your school at the post-secondary level or higher, so colleges, university, for example, you should let us know by going to the IRCC web form with a new letter of acceptance and other supporting document that you may need to submit. I put out a QR code here, which will lead you directly to the IRCC web form. However, if you already obtain your study permit, if the study permit is already approved and you have not traveled to Canada yet, but you have changed your school at the colleges or university level or higher, you should apply for a new study permit and pay new fees. For high school, secondary school, or lower, you don't have to worry about this. You don't need to apply for a new study permit either way if you happen to change your school before entering Canada. Okay, so now you may be wondering, can my family still come to Canada with me? And this typically, in principle, does not change. Your spouses, children, parents can still travel to Canada with you as an international student, of you being an international student. But I do wish to bring your attention back to earlier when I talk about non-discretionary travel. Basically, your immediate family members should apply online together with you. We will issue the written authorization letter to form part of the non-discretionary travel. So if your spouses, for example, wish to travel with you to Canada while you study, they can apply for an open work permit, and we can issue that written authorization letter at the same time. If you have to apply separately for your family member to join you in Canada, you have to make sure that to go to our website to apply for the written authorization letter. Okay, so you're likely interested about staying in Canada longer after your study, and I'm sure most of you already know about the postgraduate work permit. In principle, not too much has changed for the requirement and processing to apply for these open work permit. If your study program is less than 8 months, you are not eligible for a postgraduate work permit. If your program is more than 6 months, but less than 2 years, you are eligible, but your work permit will be the same length as your study program. If your study program is equal or greater than 2 years, your postgraduate open work permit will likely be 3 years. What has changed since the pandemic is if you had only studied online since spring 2020 when the pandemic started, all the online courses hours will be counted towards the length of postgrad work permit until December 31st, 2021, so the end of this year. So anytime between spring 2020 to the end of this year, online study will count towards the postgrad work permit. Okay, that concludes the presentation today. I have put out a last QR code here for you to scan. This is a survey that you can take for today's webinar, and I would appreciate you could do that for us. And we have also put out our email address here. If you have any inquiries, you can send it to our email. Our Facebook pages is also right here, as well as our Twitter account. So if you wish to continue following us and get more information, you are welcome to like the Facebook page or the Twitter account and follow us throughout your process. Thank you. So I'll give you a minute just to catch on and do the survey, and I'll start to answer questions. Hello, welcome back. So I'm ready to answer some of your questions that's showing up right now at the Q&A chat box. The first question I have is, I have a valid PGWP, postgrad work permit, but don't have any labor contract. Is it okay to enter Canada? Basically, you will need to meet the non-discretionary and non-optional purpose. So if you have a work permit, but you do not have a job yet in Canada, this will be depending on if your life has already been established in Canada. So let's say you are a student in Canada for the last 3 years already. Your life was in Canada. You were just back to Vietnam maybe a few months ago, couple months ago, and now you want to return to Canada. This is likely to be okay. But again, this decision will be made by the Canada Border Service Agency. But if you have already resettled here in Vietnam and you recently just got the postgrad work permit and you haven't had a job, I would say that maybe a little bit risky. So it really depends on your past situation, where you are established. Second question I have, do I have to show a balance proof in my GIC account to the border as it is almost a year once I pay my GIC account? When you arrive at the border officers are checking whether or not you are eligible to enter Canada. So that means if you do have a school to go to, the school that you say you are going to, and if you have a valid study permit, and if you're arriving within a reasonable period of time, for example, right now is no longer than 4 weeks. So I don't believe you need to show your finance again, unless there is concern from the border service agency officer. Question number 3, must parents need to do medical examination check if they want to accompany their children to Canada? So if the parents are just going with a temporary resident visa, which we also call a visitor visa, you usually do not need a medical exam. Medical exam is required if you're going to Canada for more than 6 months, for example. Okay, next question. Sorry, but the program start date is the orientation date or the term start date? I would say check on your letter of acceptance. On your letter of acceptance, there should be a date that says program starts on this date. But logically, I would say if you need to attend the orientation, the Border Service Agency officer will consider that as the start date. Okay, next question. I was born on September 20th, 2003, and intend to arrive in Canada on August 15, 2021. Will I be considered a minor and exempted from 3-day hotel quarantine? So if you're born on September 20th and you arrive on August 15, you are still under the age of 18, you will be exempted from the hotel quarantine. But you will still need a 14-day quarantine plan. Okay, next, my health check was expired and I have done it again. How long can I know it is effective and I can arrive to Canada? I did not have IRCC online account because before I applied papers. How do I know it is valid or not for traveling? So if you apply previously by paper, you can still actually link to an online account. You will need to go to the IRCC secure account, create a new account. Once you create a new account, there is a button that you can link your paper application. Once you link that, you'll be able to see if your counterfoil document is valid or not. Okay, next question. Will dependent children traveling with a spouse of the student need approval letters from IRCC to travel to Canada? So if I'm understanding this question correctly, you mean the international students has a spouse and a child, and both of them wants to join the international student in Canada. Then first of all, you will need a valid permit or visa. And yes, you will need the authorization letter from IRCC. Next question, if my medical exam is expired, do I need to inform IRCC in Ho Chi Minh City about the upfront medical exam? So if your medical exam is expired, you will need to do a medical exam again and send it to us. You can send it through your online account, I believe, or the web form. Next question, how can I show my quarantine plan? By talking to officers or using a handout? So the quarantine plan, you can present it in a written format, and you can upload it to the Arrive Can app that I presented to you earlier. So if you haven't downloaded that app already, I recommend you to download that. You'll be able to enter your quarantine plan in the app. That'll be the most efficient way. All right. People from the same household can share a hotel room. What would be considered to be from the same household? Same household meaning people living together under the same roof. So typically your immediate family members. Okay, I'm a student under 18 and I'm not vaccinated. Do I need to book a hotel for 3 days? No, you do not. But you do need a 14-day quarantine plan. Okay, if I apply through SDS on June 25th, when will I receive the final decision? All applications are being processed as quickly as possible right now. I can't really guarantee a decision date. I would say to continue check your status using the client or use the client inquiry to inquire about your status. Okay, next question. If a student currently is studying inside Canada and receive a letter from IRCC to inform that the medical examination expired, will the student have to have a new medical exam inside Canada? No, if you're already in Canada, you do not need medical exam. This is the medical exam requirement is for people entering Canada. Okay, next, my visa will be expired on September 30, 2021. But I do renew my study permit already and is extended until 2025. Is it okay if I travel back to Toronto with my new study permit and old visa? Can I extend my visa when I land back to Toronto? Yes, you can travel to Canada with your new study permit and the old visa as long as the visa hasn't expired. And yes, you can extend your visa in Canada. Next question, do I need an authorization letter for my immediate family member if we both travel to Canada together for the first time? My wife has received an approved open work permit. At the same time, I received letter of introduction of my study permit. The authorization letter should be sent to you already. And yes, you do need an authorization letter. The next question, I have online exam from 11th to 19th of August. My flight is August 7th, and start date for my third semester is September 7th. Will I still be allowed? August 7th to September 7th, that's 30 days roughly. I would say it should be okay. I'm not quite sure what does it mean by online exam from 11th to 19th of August. Okay. I have open work permit approval and plan to travel to Canada with my husband who has study permit approval. He is the main applicant. Would you please tell me, do I need a travel exemption letter? Okay, so this is the same question. You will need a exemption letter. Yes. Sorry, my video just cut off a little bit. Now I'm back. Okay, so next question. I just want to reconfirm that students at high school level, if they change to new school, they do not have to apply for new study permit when they are still in Vietnam and going to enter Canada first time for September 2021 intake. Is that right? That is correct. Next question. Border officer who make the decision to allow enter Canada or not is in Canada or in departing airport. This is a good question. When you checking at the airport, if the airline actually has question or they are not sure about whether or not they can board you, they actually will consult with our CBSA colleagues already. So if something that they cannot approve you at the departing airport here in Vietnam, you will be refused boarding already. And also at the Canadian airport as well. If for some reason you are still allowed to board, but the border officer at the Canadian airport are not satisfied of your purpose of entry, they can refuse your entry as well. Okay, next question. If I take first shot of vaccine here in Vietnam, as per HCDC, we cannot get the vaccination certificate. Will there be any problem for my vaccination process at Canada for second shot? I would recommend you to consult with the health authority here as well as the health authority in Canada when you arrive. I cannot comment on that. The next question, I see the border asking about fund in GIC account for 10,200 Canadian dollar, but I have not active account in Canada. How can show for the border? If the border is asking for proof of funds, there must be a concern about your financial ability. You should still prepare all the documents that you prepare for your study permit application. If they do ask, you have it on hand to show them. So my advice is just whatever you had that you used to apply for the study permit application. Next question. I got my study permit since 2020, but I did not travel to Canada as I took online courses for first year. I'll go to Canada this August. Do I have to do anything with my study permit? If your study permit is still valid and it's not expired, you do not need to do anything with it. You can still travel with that. But like I mentioned in the presentation, if you're changing school at the post-secondary level, you will need to apply for a new permit. Next question, do I have to show a balance proof in my GIC account at this almost a year since I paid it? And again, whatever document you use to apply for your study permit, have a copy ready. If the border asks for that, then you can present them. Okay. Is an international student with a negative result of COVID test and given a dose of AZ vaccine able to decrease the duration of quarantine in a government-approved hotel? No. To be exempted from the 3-day government-approved hotel, you will have to have the full series of approved vaccines. So for this case, you will need to have 2 doses 14 days before your trip. During the lockdown in Ho Chi Minh City, outside of Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi City, where can I get a medical examination? And unfortunately, this is difficult, I understand. You can only visit the panel physician listed on our website, and if because they are closed due to the lockdown, unfortunately, we will all have to wait. Okay, I don't see any more question. Oh, there's one more. Okay. The mother has visitor visa and want to escort the son under 18 to Canada to study. So the mother need the approval restriction travel from you. Yes, the mother will need to go to our website. There's information about how to obtain a written authorization letter. Okay, so before I answer the last question I see here, I want to make a correction to one of my response earlier. I think the question was about whether or not a written authorization is required for a company's spouse, children, going to Canada with the international students. I just confirmed that actually they do not, as long as they apply and travel together. The authorization letter is not required for spouses with an open work permit, for example, or children with a study permit. Okay. So I see few more questions here. I'm an international student at Douglas College. I'll come to Canada with my husband on August 12th. I have a student visa and he has a worker visa. In this case, I do not know if I need to apply for authorization. So yes, I just clarify. No, the authorization letter in this case is not required if you're traveling together. But if you're not traveling together, then yes, it is required. Okay. Is it possible to enter Canada as international student with a visitor visa and study permit? If you're an international student, you are entering with your study permit, which will be given to you at the border. You will use the welcome letter as well as your visa to enter. Okay, what if I cannot log into my IRCC account? There should be function that allow you to either retrieve your password if that's the issue. And other than that, I cannot really help you here, but there should be technical difficulty support on the website that you can just follow the instruction and double check. Next question. Does it mean I have to arrive in Canada at least 14 days before my academic year? Yeah, I would suggest that because you need 14 days to quarantine, so you do not miss the start of your school. But make sure to arrive no longer than 30 days or 4 weeks before the start of your school. Is it too late to apply for a visa now for the fall semester? Little bit, but never too late. So just apply as soon as possible. You may receive a response a little bit late, but just try your best and apply as soon as possible. Okay, next question. I submitted my first study permit application on June 1st. It got withdrawn June 30 for stating the wrong study status. On July 1st, I submitted a new application with up from medical exam. I got my form deadlines, tuition, ticket fee coming up on August 1st. How can I be certain and pay for the fees? I'm not quite sure if I understand this, but it sounds like you can send a status inquiry to the IRCC status inquiry or our email. We can look further. Okay. The summer course begins in August 3rd. Can that be counted as the beginning day of study? Yes, if your course is starting on August 3rd, then that's the start day of your course. Does Airbnb consider as an appropriate quarantine destination for the 14-day plan? This might be a question you need to ask with the provincial authority. I'm not quite sure because each province may have different rules against Airbnb for being quarantine facility. Okay, do I need to apply for a new study permit when I move from high school to post-secondary school if my current study permit is still valid? Very good question. Generally, the requirement is you do not, but we highly recommend you to apply for a new one for a few very good reasons. Because if you apply for a new study permit that's tailored for the post-secondary level, it gives you the flexibility to work for certain hour, as well as timing counted towards your postgrad work permit application. Okay. I have had a first shot of COVID-19 vaccine. Do I need to bring anything when I come to Canada? If you only have one dose of the vaccine and you need a second dose, I would recommend you to bring the documents. So if you happen to be eligible for a second dose in Canada, it's good for the health authority in Canada to understand that. Okay, next question. My study permit was approved recently. While entering Canada, do I need to show a valid police clearance certificate? I took the certificate while applying for my study permit, which is 6 months old now. The police certificate requirement is for the application. So if your application is already approved, the border shouldn't be having too much concern about that. But if you want to be safe, you can carry that with you. Okay. When you say vaccinated before arrival, does it mean 2 shots or just 1? So there are currently 4 approved vaccine in Canada. 3 of them require 2 doses, which counts as the complete series. Moderna, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca, you do need 2 doses to be qualified as exemption for quarantine. And you have to complete the 2 doses 14 days before arrival. The COVID-19 test is 72 hours once landing Canada or the next transiting country. The COVID test in Canada, 72 hours, yes, for you when you arrive in Canada, at the airport, you will be tested, and it's 72 hours for you to get the result. Okay, if I travel from the US, will I be able to enter Canada if I'm not traveling for essential reason? And if yes, do I need to follow quarantine requirement? Uh, every travelers going to Canada must have an essential purpose, including those arriving from the States. Okay, my program is co-op postgraduate, which eligible to get work permit, but my Canada visa on passport is S1. Could I be able to get work permit at immigration at the airport? Yeah, if you apply, if your application had already indicated co-op with co-op, when you arrive at the airport, you will be given a work permit for the co-op program. Okay, does the 30-day requirement also apply to returning students? In my case, I have not traveled to Canada previously and did my first year of study remotely. Do I still need to book my flight no sooner than 30 days before the new semester? What if I decide to travel mid-semester? Yes, the 30 days is still in effect even though you are a returning student because that counts as the essential purpose. Okay, so all students going to Canada, your essential purpose is to study. So if there is if you arrive too early, more than 30 days, it will not be counted as essential purpose. Okay, I can take one or two last question if you have any. All right. My son gets study permit approval to study in Nova Scotia International Student Program for September 2021. However, recently the program informed that they cannot accept international students from outside Canada due to decision of the provincial government. He has to change to Newfoundland to study for grade 10. Does he have to apply for new study permit? If no, but application for new study permit has already been submitted to you in June. What should my son do now? A new study permit is not required, but you can send a new letter of acceptance to the new school through your IRCC online account or the web form. Okay, I apply for my study permit mid-June. Can I reasonably expect that I'll get an answer before the end of September? I cannot guarantee. It depends on your application completeness, first of all. And if your application is completed, meaning all documents are submitted, including medical, police certificate, and everything else, we will try our best. But I cannot guarantee. Okay, I will end my question and answer period now as the time has reached 10:30. But my colleagues will still be able to answer some of your questions online through the Q&A chat box. Thank you for joining the webinar today. I'll leave the final page of the deck on here just in case you haven't completed the survey or if you want to follow us on our social media. Thank you. Hello. While you are still online, just to let you know, we will continue to answer the your question on the Q&A chat box for another 10 minutes. The event itself will officially be closed at 11. So that allow you some time to take notes from the chat box if you want. Thank you.